Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, today we are diving into part 9 of our 20-part tutorial series, The Guide to Modern Network Routing Protocols, which is put together by the great folks at Virtualization Options LLC. They're a Colorado-based technology research, education, and advisory organization. In this chapter, we're pulling back the curtain on exactly how the unseen decision-making engine of the Internet actually makes its choices. You know, most of us just expect the Internet to work, right? But underneath it all is this massive, high-speed system, and we're going to explore exactly how it ticks.
So let's start here. What happens when a network link fails? Now, what's really fascinating about this question is that the answer defines the very core problem of network management. Imagine a packet of data arriving at a router. That router has to literally instantly decide which interface to send it out of. If a fiber cable gets cut by a backhoe or a power outage takes down a remote office, well, the network has to figure out a detour. Without a system in place to handle that traffic, it just drops into a black hole.
And this brilliantly illustrates the high stakes of how we solve that problem. Look at static routing versus dynamic routing. With static routing, an administrator manually types every single destination into the router. And hey, that might be fine for a single, isolated network, but it breaks the second a link goes down. Dynamic routing protocols, on the other hand, automatically exchange reachability information. They calculate new paths on the fly when things fail, and they can effortlessly scale up to thousands of routers. Honestly, this automation is what saves you from catastrophic downtime.
Here is our roadmap for today's chapter. We've got 5 sections. 1. The core routing problem. 2. Foundational routing concepts. 3. 3 core routing strategies. 4. Inside the enterprise network. And finally, 5. Routing the global internet. All right, diving into section 1, the core routing problem and the stakes of a wrong choice.
Moving right along to section 2, foundational routing concepts and building our vocabulary.
Okay, first up is the concept of an autonomous system, or AS. Think of this as a distinct neighborhood of the Internet owned by one single entity. Every AS is assigned a totally unique number. For example, Google's primary AS number is 15169, while Comcast's is 7922. So the crucial takeaway here is that routing protocols generally operate in 2 distinct ways. They're either entirely inside your organization's AS, as interior protocols, or they operate outside, sitting on the border to connect different organizations together, like when your enterprise connects to your ISP.
Next up is convergence. When a link goes down, or maybe a new network is added, routers have to talk to each other to update their maps. Convergence is simply the process of everyone getting on the exact same page. During convergence, traffic can be dropped or routed into dead ends, which is why speed matters immensely. Actually, as you'll see in a bit, some protocols take sub-seconds to converge, while others literally take minutes, which is wild when you think about it.
Finally, we have the metric. If a router has 3 different ways to get to the exact same destination, how does it choose the best one? Well, it uses a metric to rank them. And different protocols use completely different measuring sticks for their metrics. Some just count the number of routers in the path, some look at the actual bandwidth and speed of the link, and others use really complex administrative policies.
All right, section 3, 3 core routing strategies, map versus rumor.
Now that we have the ground rules, this brilliantly illustrates our first major divide. A distance vector protocol is essentially routing by rumor. A router only knows what its directly connected neighbor tells it. It only knows direction and distance. It's exactly like asking the guy next door for directions. On the flip side, a link state protocol is like having a complete GPS map of the whole network. Every single router has a full identical bird's eye view of the entire topology.
So, here are the 3 overarching strategies you really need to know. First, distance vector, which, like we said, is routing by rumor. It's definitely simpler, but it risks slow convergence and routing loops. Second is link state, where routers flood the network with their local link statuses so everyone builds that full, fast, and loop-free topology map. And third, we have path vector. Path vector is a whole different beast. It cares about policy and stability way more than raw speed. It prevents loops by keeping a strict record of every single autonomous system a route has traveled through. So, depending on if you want simplicity, speed, or massive scale, you choose distance vector, link state, or path vector, respectively.
Moving to section 4, inside the enterprise network, exploring RIP, OSPF, and EIGRP.
Okay, let's start with RIP, or the Routing Information Protocol. It's one of the oldest distance vector protocols still kicking around today. It measures the best route purely by hop count, literally just counting how many routers a packet has to cross. Anything over 15 hops, it's considered unreachable. But RIP is simple, almost to a fault. If a link fails on a large network, you could be waiting up to 3 whole minutes for RIP to find a new path. Plus, its fatal flaw is that it has absolutely no awareness of link speed. To RIP, a path crossing 3 painfully slow 56K modems looks totally identical to a path crossing 3 blazing fast 10 gigabit fiber links. And to top it off, it broadcasts its entire table every 30 seconds, which just clogs up your bandwidth.
So what do enterprises actually use instead? Usually OSPF, which is a link state protocol. For larger enterprises, OSPF builds that full GPS map through this highly structured 4-step process. First, routers send hello packets to discover their neighbors. Second, they flood link state advertisements to everyone, building an identical database. Third, every router independently runs Dijkstra's mathematical algorithm to compute the absolute shortest path tree. And fourth, unlike RIP, OSPF calculates its metric cost based directly on interface bandwidth. Now, to make this scale up without totally crashing router CPUs, OSPF smartly isolates updates into specific areas, with all traffic passing through a central Area 0 backbone.
Now, if you aren't using OSPF, you might be using EIGRP. Originally proprietary to Cisco, EIGRP is considered an advanced distance vector or a hybrid protocol. What's really interesting about EIGRP is its totally unique dual algorithm. Instead of building a heavy GPS map like OSPF, dual mathematically precomputes valid, loop-free backup paths. They call these feasible successors. So if a primary link fails, EIGRP doesn't need to stop and calculate. It just flips to the backup instantly. We're talking sub-second convergence here. It even allows for unequal cost load balancing, meaning it can send traffic down a fast link and a slower link at the very same time in optimal proportions. Pretty cool, right?
Let's step outside the campus now. Section 5. Routing the global internet with IS-IS and BGP.
First up at this massive scale is IS-IS. Now, IS-IS is a link state protocol very similar to OSPF, but with one absolutely critical difference. While OSPF rules the enterprise LAN because it natively uses IP addresses, telecom carrier cores and massive hyperscalers, think Google and Amazon, they rely on IS-IS. Why? Because IS-IS runs directly over layer 2 of the network using ISO addresses instead of IP. This makes it incredibly resilient, allowing a single instance of the protocol to route both IPv4 and IPv6 simultaneously, scaling effortlessly to hundreds of thousands of routes. 900,000 plus. That staggering number represents the amount of IPv4 prefixes currently sitting in the global internet routing table. To carry a map of the entire internet, we clearly need a protocol entirely focused on massive scale and strict policy.
And that protocol is our final one, BGP, or the Border Gateway Protocol. BGP is a path vector protocol, and frankly, it runs the internet. Unlike OSPF or EIGRP, BGP is intentionally slow. It actively suppresses unstable, flapping routes to prevent a single bad link from cascading across the globe. It uses complex attributes to let administrators tightly control traffic flow. So if a multi-homed enterprise or a large university has multiple connections to different internet service providers and they want to control exactly how inbound and outbound traffic hits those different ISPs, BGP is literally the only tool for the job. But because it relies on such complex policies, you would absolutely never want the headache of running this inside a small office.
Okay, let's lock this all in. This summary matrix gives you the absolute bottom line on how to match the right protocol to your specific network size and needs. You can see RIP sitting way over at the small end, slow and simple. OSPF and EIGRP dominate the enterprise space with their fast link state or hybrid efficiency. And finally, IS-IS and BGP step up to handle the massive, complex scale of service provider cores and the global internet itself. Which brings us right back to our core problem from the very beginning, perfectly summarized by this quote from our Virtualization Options source text. The right protocol must match the right environment. Ultimately, there is no single best protocol out there. There is only the best tool for the specific job at hand. You wouldn't use a sledgehammer to drive a thumbtack, and you definitely wouldn't use BGP to route a 3-person remote office.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. As your network infrastructure inevitably scales and integrates deeper with cloud services, which routing protocol will form the backbone of your organization's future? Think about your current network topology for a second. Are you relying on the right algorithm for tomorrow's demands, or is it time to redraw the map? Thanks for joining me on this explainer for Chapter 9. Keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next one for Part 10.